This is Jackson Waters with the Little Room Podcast. I think this is episode 4, and today I am with Nathan Hazen. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
All right, cool. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Yeah.
Well, I'll start with my musical background, I guess. So I got into playing music the same way a lot of people do, as in 4th grade.
Yeah.
You gotta be in bands. So I played trumpet because we had an old one. My grandpa's old trumpet was just lying around the house. So my dad was like, "Yep, like I don't want to pay for an instrument, so you play trumpet." And I was like, "Okay, sounds good." So in 4th grade, I was playing trumpet, and then in 5th grade, I wanted to be different and hip, so I switched to French horn. And then I actually got really good at it. I practiced a lot. I played it seriously, I'd say, up until like 8th grade. I was in BISO, which is like Boston Youth Symphony Orchestra. I did like junior districts and senior districts, which is like the local, you meet like kids from around like Massachusetts, and you rehearse for 3 days. And
I'm familiar with that. We have our own thing like that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you do. Yeah, so I did that, and then in high school, I sort of stopped playing French horn as much and started playing trumpet more again, because I wanted to. Well, okay, the first 2 years of high school, I played. My journey is long and complicated. I played French horn in the band, in concert band. It was concert band.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
And I was in an elective called Jazz Rock Ensemble, which we had jazz band, which was like for the good kids, and then Jazz Rock Ensemble, which was for the kids that were like kind of trash, which was me. So I played a French horn and a little bit of guitar in that. I played guitar, sort of. I'm all right. And then junior and senior year, I was in jazz band. I played trumpet in jazz band. And yeah, that's sort of it. And in college, I sort of stopped playing music freshman year, just because I was getting settled into BU, and BU doesn't have any. BU's music program sucks unless you're in like the school like marching band or like band.
Yeah,
like
so you go to Boston
bands,
University,
which I didn't want to do because that's Boston University.
That's actually kind of funny because I did French. So I started off with trumpet in 4th grade, and then I moved to French horn in 6th grade. Well, I played both.
Oh,
yeah,
no, really?
And then after 6th grade, I realized that I just wanted to pursue something like trumpet, like just instead of French horn. It's not because I didn't. I didn't like it. It's not that I didn't like it, but the embouchure was a tad bit different, and I didn't want to like ruin my talent for both while trying to do both. I'd just rather like commit to one rather than be okay at two.
Right. No. I totally feel you on that. Yeah, the French horn. It's really nice. It's really lovely sounding instrument, but it's so.
Oh yeah, no, like the partials.
I'm sure
the partials.
The fingerings, like literally once you get above like a certain note, everything can be played with like 7 fingerings, and it's just all on the lips, and
it's crazy.
It's just like it's so hard.
So
it's tiny like that.
Yeah. So you have like a background in like concert band and stuff like that. So do you listen to any of that like on like Spotify or whatnot?
Honestly, no. I don't really have a good reason for it. I haven't really played classical music in a while. But I do like classical music, and I'm not very well versed in it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know a lot about it, but,
yeah, this is for all musicians.
My dad listens to it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad listens to it a lot. So it's sort of like my dad's like a big. He's not like a musician, but he's a big music guy. We have a record player, and he has set up speakers all over the house, so there's always like some sort of music playing.
Yeah.
So it's nice to
No.
Sorry, I was just saying. When I'm doing like homework or like something, I like music without words in it. So I usually listen to jazz, but I do classical from time to time. It's nice.
Yeah, cool. So so you say you like listen to jazz. So like, what other genres are like what's your like main thing that you like to listen to?
Really, I know a lot of people say this, but like I don't really have one like thing.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of like this nowadays that's like the normal answer because after Spotify and like everything, it's so easy to listen to so much music. But I'd say like, okay, Spotify would say my main genres are like hip hop, rap, type stuff, and pop, like a little bit, like sort of like some genres of pop, and classic rock as well. Those are like sort of the three main ones I listen to when I'm just like jamming or listening to music. So I guess some of my favorite artists, it's always tough. For pop, I like John Bellion a lot. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's just like sick. Like from a producer's standpoint, at least, like he's a genius. He's crazy. The stuff he does in the studio is the sounds he makes. The things he does like the most. Like he uses his voice like a lot, and so instead of like having a drum or like an effect, he'll just like make some weird noise into the mic and then put a bunch of effects on it. It'll just sound like sick. It'll fit.
I've done stuff like that. That's like so much fun.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's really fun to like to mess around with that stuff. Hip hop, I like Kanye a lot, obviously. Like Ye. I like sort of like the more like psychedelic artists like Travis Scott and A$AP Rocky. I don't listen to a lot. I guess they're pretty mainstream. I don't really listen to like Drake or like
Drake.
Trap as much. I'm getting more into trap. I'm starting to get trap music more. I think it is nice, and I was actually having a discussion with my friend the other day of how sort of hip hop has become the new rock and roll in the sense that like it's the most popular form. Like everyone listens to it. Everyone knows all the artists, and it's like it's not going to say it's super easy to make, but it's easy to make in the sense that like, you know, a producer can lay down a beat in like 20 minutes. If they know what they're doing, and it'll be sick and it'll sound good, it'll go hard. Just like sort of rock, like you strum 4 chords and you're good to go, and you have something to work on. So I think that's kind of like
so what do you
it's a cool way to see how music.
What do you like really like look into like when you're like listening to music like trap or hip hop? What's something that like really like helps you like really enjoy it?
That's a good question. I like to listen for like samples, which is always hard because it's hard to tell when something is sampled and something is not these days. But if there's like a song I recognize, I'm like, or I'll be like, oh, like that sounds like a sample. Like I'll look it up, and then you know it is or it isn't. That's like as a like primary. I don't want to call myself a producer, but I'm sort of just getting into the producing game. But I feel like I've always had like an attentive ear, and I've always listened for. So besides samples, I guess I get chords. I mean, for some music, because in jazz, you're trained to listen for chords and changes and everything like that. So when something has like a hit chord that like some people like want to notice, like I'm like, oh, damn. I see. Like, I'm like someone someone who's at jazz and feels like Tyler or like Kendrick or something.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Like I'll hear that.
And do you?
And I do just like stuff that sounds good, like that is well produced and just glossy and just is like pleasant to listen to. Like I always a good sometimes like the production I feel like just kind of determines whether the song like that sounds really generic, but like the production really shows whether the song will be good or not. Like you can have like a good song, but if it's not produced well, it just kind of or mixed well, it can just like really just sound out of place or just not really very good. You're definitely right on that. Like there's some songs that I'm listening to and I'm like, damn, like this would be so much better if they just did this, like tweak this one thing or like change the hi-hat a little bit or like, you know, put a little more of this on the guitar, like it's just fun. Sorry, hold on. The headphone cord popped out. But yeah, sorry, I completely lost my train of thought.
No, I lost my train of thought, but I had it's okay. But I had this like thing because like you're like kind of classically trained in like the music thing, and then you turn it into producing. So when you're producing or when you're listening to music, like how do you think like your classical like knowledge or playing has helped you like listen for sounds or like listen for like just certain things in music that you don't think you would have listened for anyways?
a good question. I wouldn't say like consciously. I wouldn't say like I listen to something like, oh, like, and I'll relate it to like a classical thing. But I think I actually thought about that, like how being like sort of classically trained growing up like affected my ears and how I listen to stuff.
Yeah, no.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does in some ways, but I can't. Because
I just thought of that,
list, like,
and like when you were talking about how like your like genres have shifted, that's just like one thing that I was just thinking about. I'm like, I wonder, because when I listen to music, sometimes, like since I've been like trained more like when I was younger, I would listen to like rock or something like that, and then like now I listen to like classical or like acoustic stuff, and so when I've just become more acceptant of like the electronic sort of side of things, of like samples and beats. And so because like before, if it for me, like when I was like a year ago, if it wasn't a real sound, I wasn't interested. Nah, because it just felt fake. But I feel like I've learned, like I've said in like past episodes, like I've said how just like this technology can be used into like in more textures and can just expand instead of just like be a whole different thing. And yeah, so like sometime, and I don't know, it is a tough question because I just thought of it and I can't even tell, like obviously it has, but I just don't know how it has, like definitely in this moment. And I think that's like a really weird thing about music is like if you're like trained, or like even if you're just like listening to music all the time, you're automatically trained in like in that sort of sense. And so when you listen to music, you already have that bias of what you've listened to before, and so you judge your music based off of what your history of music. And I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely some people that I know that like listen to like a ton of music like all the time, and have a very particular taste, but they don't know anything.
Oh yeah, no.
Anything. And I'm like, damn, you would be like a really good producer, like if you learned your shit, if you like you put your mind to it, and learn learn a little bit of theory and like the technology. Like I'm like to some people, I'm like, yeah, you could like definitely like whip something up just because listening to music just like a lot from a young age really I think it really affects me later. Honestly, I'd say like the stuff I listen to has gotten like a lot better in the past like 4 years ish. When I was like younger, well, I guess the first stuff I started listening to was classic rock, just because that's what my dad had, and that's what was around. And then I sort of had like a little punk phase, like in 7th and 8th grade. Not like real punk, but like punk rock, like We the Kings and like Time Low or whatever. And then after that, what did I listen to freshman year? That's a really good question. I like Bruno Mars.
Oh yeah, Bruno.
As like pop superstars go, like he's definitely one of my favorites. Like he's such a good singer.
Yeah, I feel like he's like very diverse in like what he's like made in his songs.
Yeah,
and I like respect that a lot.
Yeah, like Doo-Wops and Hooligans, which was like his 2012 album, I think, like it's so much different than the one his most recent one. Which I think it's cool. I think it's dope how artists can shift nowadays. Another person who's done that, I just like listened to her album recently, is Charlie XCX.
Never heard of him.
Like the stuff she's put out, like she had that she had like one like really famous song in like 2014 or something. I forget the exact name.
That's all right.
I Don't Care.
Oh yeah.
I Don't Care. Yeah, that one. Yeah. So like she used to make more stuff like that. And I listened to her most recent album, Jay. It was like super like what's the word? Like experimental, like bunch of weird electronic sounds like here and there, like really different. I think it's cool when artists can just like, even if they have a big following, just like
I have a lot of respect for that.
I guess another example of that is like Harry Styles.
I haven't listened to much of his stuff.
I'd recommend it, honestly. Like I don't like when he was in like One Direction, like obviously like I love One Direction as much as like I love singing in One Direction. This guy, like, you know, it's like fun, like but it's not like music I listen to. But when he like dropped his first song, I think "Sign of the Times" was his first like solo piece. I was like, damn. I was like, wow, like this man is like people holding him back. Like, if this is what he really wants to do, that's like
yeah, and
honestly, on Britain, good music just comes from Britain. Britain, like just that's like where it comes from. We have jazz and and hip hop, I guess, but everything else sort of came from Britain.
And actually, that's kind of interesting because I feel like America in itself is a country built from other countries, and you can definitely hear that with the music. Like jazz came from like African and Cuban rhythms, and from like New Orleans and like chant like and stuff like that, and developed into something like way broader. And like our Western classical music was brought down here and brought down to America, and those traits were developing into something new. And then now we get stuff like BTS and like producing and stuff like that, and we have new technology where now everyone's just like grabbing something, trying to invent something new, like whether it's like classical, jazz, pop, rock, and sometimes
like have all the genres invented. That's like
and it's just like nothing was truly invented here. Everything was like a piece from somewhere else, and I think that's like really, really cool. And so like especially with the technology, I feel like we've come to a place of just now. So we've had like the set of genres for like 20 years or something like that. We've just got trap is pretty new. That's like maybe 5-10 years old. And so now we're kind of just unconsciously trying to find a new type of genre. So there's like fusion jazz, stuff like that. But like, but with technology and stuff like that, we're trying to just grab different things and just experiment and try to see what sounds make what. And we have so much access that like we're just constantly trying to create something like a new sound. And that's kind of hard to do, but it's very impressive when it happens. And
yeah, it is cool when you see like you listen to something, you're like, wow, that's like completely like unique. I've never seen like that.
And so you're producing, right?
I think yeah, a little bit. I was just going off on your previous point. I think like I don't know if you listen to Tyler a lot, but Tyler's new album or most recent anymore was Igor. Like, that was like Igor was like, it wasn't, I don't want to say it was in like a new genre, but it was different. Like he came close. He came closer than he like not he he didn't invent something else, but it was definitely different. That was definitely one of like that was like really cool. That was really cool.
And I think what's really cool about him is his attitude of just not caring and just
he doesn't care at all. It's crazy.
And like I think that's like the most respect you can get out of someone like that, because music and just like the whole arts industry, whether you're in acting or something like that, is very developed on your image. And so Tyler was just kind of like, screw that, I'm gonna make what I want. And so it's controversial. Like I've met people who are like, oh, I hate his Igor album, like it's just not him. And I'm like, well, who is he? Like he's someone who's trying he's someone who's trying to create something. And like honestly, I was just impressed by like just the first song out of the album, where it's just this heavy chord and then just like this drum offbeat and
the groove slaps.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's just like something that you don't see from someone like nowadays, because you just have samples of beats of like 2 and 4 or just hi-hats or but he had a live drum set and he had a drummer, and they just did like something that was off, like different every single phrase. And I just have a lot of respect for that, because it's different. It sets people off, and I think that's gonna start some change into some like celebrities like music.
I think producing, like as I learn more about how to do it, like I'm realizing that it's really like most of the work is you get the song on the thing and it's on, like you could put it out, you could be anyone, like I'm sure Tyler the Creator could write a song today and it would be good and everyone would listen to it, but it's like the little things that you don't even notice, like unless you're trying to, like the little effects, like the changing, you know, I'm doing this at the same beat, but something will be different, like every few measures. You won't even notice it, but it'll keep the song fresh and it'll keep it new. And that's really hard. That's what separates the good from that's what separates the good boys from like the great boys, is the ability to like put in like little effects and like here and there and like sample stuff and like tweak it and just make you like add like the right amount of spice and flavor
Yeah,
to the song
and
to make it like
yeah, and that's kind of funny because that kind of sends like everyone agrees that history repeats itself, and so that exact thing can be like seen throughout all of like classical history, and like of like Debussy like doing different types of scales or like the whole tone scale, or it's like someone that's not very familiar where it just never ends.
Yeah.
Or like just some composers started to add like different time signatures where it would just like be like a little bit off, like Sibelius, I forgot what piece, but he would start a phrase and then when he would repeat the phrase it would be on a different beat, but so everyone was on a little like uncomfortable. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that just really develops, and a good artist who did that in her new EP, her name is Becca Stevens, and her new EP is called Wonderbloom, and the song was called I Will Avenge You, and it's like super dark and just heavy, and then it goes from like 4/4 to 3/4 back to 4/4, and it just like a big jump, and you're like, just every single time I listen to it, it's just awesome. And I feel like, and like even like metal, Becca Stevens, I Will Avenge You, and I feel like even in rock that happens sometimes, like there's some 7/8 licks that guitarists try to learn and stuff like that, and
the one I think of is Money when I think by Pink Floyd.
Exactly.
It starts in 7 and you're like grooving and you're like, wait a second.
Exactly. And it's something that you don't really think.
You have to count and be like,
yeah. 7. And so it's something that most people don't think. They're just like, oh, this is strange. I wonder what's going on. And like even if you don't know theory, which is fine, you don't need to know theory to love music.
Yeah, to be like, wow, this is like
weird. And so you just love it because it's just different. It's like it's nothing you're comfortable with, but it's something that you're interested in. And I just appreciate artists who take that leap into something different. And so even if it's simple as a time signature change and going back, or just like slow down the tempo a little bit, something like that, it just really, I think, brings out what music is trying to be. And yeah,
I think most, even like what's funny about like that one in particular is that like, and this is sort of good branching off of your like comment that you don't need to know theory like music. You don't even know theory to make music. Like when the bassist wrote the groove for that song, he didn't know like it was in 7. He was just like, this sounds cool, like, and then I think like the band took it and wrote with it and like, yeah, it's in 7. But and also like another thing I like is like even when like I've not written songs, but like I played songs in jazz band, but like you switch time signatures halfway through. Like the transition to switching time signatures is always like hard. It's like, what are we gonna do? But in like Pink Floyd, literally we're just like, all right, so we're gonna play 7, and then we're just gonna like and then it's gonna go to 4. Like they were like, fuck it, like we're just gonna do something like
crazy. And
that's
just,
like sick. If it works,
yeah,
it works.
I just love stuff like just that with that creativity. And then I like stuff. I have like this weird thing with rhythms. I really like rhythms, and so I wrote this class or this wind ensemble piece based off of this rhythm from the African country called Cameroon, and it's in 9/8, and so the backbeat is in 3. It's 3, so it's and then the melody is so it's like so it always like flows back to 1, but like everything in between is just off, and then it just always flows to 1, and you're feeling in 1, and it's just you can't feel the in between, but you always land back on 1, and
you always feel 1.
And I just really like stuff that's like chaotic, but it's chaotic structure, and I'm really impressed with people who do that.
That's like in jazz, like they're sort of not really time distinguished, but like one of the most famous jazz pieces. Steps. And I'm not an expert in jazz.
Of course.
Steps. Like I'm not an expert in jazz, but like that's
the
like
big
when they like you change you change keys, like that's what in jazz, like that's what separates jazz from like a lot of other music is that like there's just key changes in the middle of songs and a bunch of them, and Coltrane just like obviously
he just
like, fuck it, we're just gonna go
exactly.
like,
and it just
It's like stuff like
it's
that. But it works.
Yeah, it's
it works.
experimental things like that is how we become that like a different society of musicians. So
How
yeah,
stuff
exactly.
grows,
So
yeah.
a big thing is just like people are like doing like jazz standards. Jazz standards are great and all that stuff, but like jazz was meant to push and to grow, and so we can't do that while holding back. Like we still have to have our foundation of what jazz is, but it's
Of like the swing and
like chord change and all that stuff, and just like where it came from. But Coltrane was one of those people who really just took that giant step and brought it into into something different. And did you hear about like the story about the first recording of Giant Steps with the pianist?
Oh yeah, the pianist like had no idea what was going on, and he was just, and Coltrane was like, well, he thought it was gonna be slow, and then Coltrane was like, all right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and he was just like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's
the solo's cheeks. It's so bad.
Yeah, I feel so
bad.
I forgot who the pianist was for that, but man, I feel so bad because during those times you only had like one recording, and then they had to send it off, and you're like, whoa, crap.
Shot.
But man, just hearing about that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and Giants.
Yeah, I mean, that's like because we've all had that moment.
Yeah.
Like at least I, like, you know, when you're playing a song and then like you get to your solo and I'm like, wait a second, like I like this is gonna be absolutely trash because I don't know what I'm doing. Like it's fun to see that, you know, like even professional musicians. Like, you know,
yeah, and then.
But yeah, no, that's
yeah, for me, like I've had a strong jazz background, but I've never took the time to really like study improvisation. So like, and I have friends who do, so I always compare myself to them, and man, it is rough when I'm in jazz band and like I'm just looking at chord changes. Like I understand what the chords are, but I can't create ideas out of it that fast, and
it's so fast.
Yeah, and like it's tough for me because I'm more of a classical trumpet player, but I also like jazz, and I'm also in the jazz band, I'm also in the concert band and stuff like that. So I put my focus on the orchestral music and musicals and stuff like that. So, but when I'm in jazz band, I don't really rehearse chord changes and stuff like that because that's not what I'm trying to like accomplish. And it hurts, man. When I'm doing a solo, I'm like, crap. I know. But I've definitely gotten better, but I'm definitely never. Yeah, just to cheat your way out of it, and like,
just literally the same 5 minutes.
Yeah, and so like I'm not gonna be into like jazz band. Like as a composer, I'll take jazz harmony and stuff like that, but I'm not planning to. I'm way too far down the line to be a jazz trumpet player. I'm way too behind, it just wasn't like an interest to me. I'm like more interested in classical and film scoring and stuff like that incorporates all, not just like a certain. Yeah. Because with film scoring and with film scoring and musical writing, you can incorporate all the genres you want. You can produce, you can mix, you do all that stuff. Like musicals has jazz, classical, just polka, whatever, and it's just so creative. And and then with film scoring, you could just be a producer and do a film scoring. Like Hans Zimmer, I consider him more of a film or like a music producer rather than a music composer because he uses so many like synthetic sounds. It's not that he can't compose, it's just like, exactly. And just like those rumbles, he's more of like a sound editor, sound producer rather than a composer,
like John Williams.
Yeah, but like he does compose.
Yeah, that's like music scores.
Yeah, music,
right? Obviously, yeah. I think music scores are like, I'm not too well versed in music scores. I don't really know like a lot about what's going on, but I think it's interesting that like again, like what separates like the great people, like the legends from like the rest is like, you know, John Williams. Like everyone knows John Williams. Like every music or like every like movie he made has like some theme that like most people can sing. Like and that's like crazy to me. That's like how does your brain work that like you can, you know, like Jurassic Park or like Star Wars or any of them, like they're not complicated at all. Like they're simple, like, and
that's the thing, that's the reason, that's actually the reason why people think of like music scoring as with John Williams is because he kept it simple. Like especially going now like in the contemporary era of composition, there's some songs with there's no theme, it's just sounds and incorporations, but are like with Hans Zimmer and his sound production, besides like Interstellar when he has like that time thing or whatnot, or Inception, but John Williams, the reason why people so like know it is because it's so simple, and that's the reason. Like I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear this, but like the up thing, it's just simple. It's just on a G. It's just
good.
G major.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people think too hard when writing for something that's. So there's two things that you can do. You can write.
I have
yeah. So you're like, sometimes you're thinking, I gotta make this complex. I gotta make this different. But sometimes you just have to just make it as it is, which sounds super vague, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's just sometimes it's just simpler than it needs to be. Like it's just you're making it harder than it needs to be. It's just simple. And sometimes the most memorable things can just be.
It's just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And.
Yeah, I was having that problem literally today. I was thinking about like I was trying to like I haven't ever like just written a full song like start to finish. And I was just trying to like get something like I was trying to like get an intro or like get something started, and I was like, damn, like this needs to be different. Like it needs to be super hip. Like it needs to be like unique. But like you can't like sometimes you just can't do that. Like some song, like not every song anyone makes is completely like. Is gonna be unique. So sometimes like an artist will come out with like some song that's like, oh my god, like what? That's like never heard anything like that before. But most of their songs, you know, it's like trap beats are similar sounding. Like there's always like there's always some like consistent. Like, even like the Beatles like wrote like
and
well, I don't really like using the Beatles as an example, but like 1-6-4-5 or 4-6-5, whatever. Like there's simple chord progressions, like famous songs and good songs are written with those. You just have to like put your own like little spin on it, but. You can't overthink it, or you won't ever.
Yeah, and so there's so I have like two things, and then we'll probably have to wrap it up. But there's a fine line between oversimplifying and over complicating it, and so you have to determine which is like the best.
The golden
So with writing, the hardest thing is just to be patient with it. The easiest thing you can do is write a melody. The hardest thing you can do is sticking with it, and I think.
Yeah.
Don't write a song to write a song. Write a song to tell a story. That's how I usually do it. Like, and that's usually how I do it. Like with most of my pieces that I've written, they have a story to tell. They have an emotion that I felt while doing it. They have some sort of significance with me. That's really helped me push through. I still have mental blocks all the time, and it's still super frustrating.
Right.
But it's just like that story that helps drive. And the next thing I have that really helps me is set a deadline. Your brain never works better than setting a deadline. Exactly. My orchestra piece. I wrote a piece for orchestra a couple months ago, and so, but like it had a deadline, and I was talking to like people at the Colburn Conservatory because I was at their youth orchestra, and I was like, hey, so I have this piece. Would you be able to play it and stuff like that? They're like. I was like, hey, can I write something for you guys? They're like, oh yeah, sure, just send it to us by next week. And because they expected me to already have something, I had nothing. Yeah, and this is this is a full orchestra piece, and so there's like 40 instruments. Like I have the score over there. Hold on, let me show you.
Let me see this.
Absolutely massive. Oh shoot. The score is look, like, so this is like a lot bigger than most pages, and so this is all the instruments that are here, and so in 5 days I had to write a piece, and so I ended up writing something that was about 5.5 minutes, I think, and I just set a deadline. I was like, I had to get it done by Sunday, and I got it done by Friday, and so I just busted my butt, just working on it. And I think it was just my drive to finish it helped me really finish it. And so when you're writing for something, or even just for yourself, the biggest thing you can do is write for the right reason and set yourself a deadline. Because if you set yourself a deadline, then you're gonna finish it. Like that's the biggest motivator for like anybody is a deadline.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah, I need to. I mean, I need to work on that. I think like I'm close to like breaking through
Yeah,
and
it's
like
tough.
being able to just write stuff, but it takes a while. I'm taking an online class, which is actually it's actually very helpful. And I think by the end of it, I'll
Yeah,
be
tell me about
well
that.
versed
Yeah.
and stuff. But I've all the ideas in my head,
Yeah.
and it's like I feel like I want to get them onto like the page, like the computer, like whatever, but it's I can't like I don't have the means to. I don't have the knowledge or
Yeah.
the skill to do it. But I hope eventually I will, and if you just stick with
Yeah,
it.
keep those stories.
Yeah, the Berkeley class. No, it's dope. It's I think there's only like 10 people taking it, but we have like, there's just like a big every week like a new section's unlocked, and there's like a big ass like 20-page lesson, and it'll just be like this week is effects, literally just effects, and how you can
Yeah, no, that's good.
put them in music. And
Yeah, no,
stuff.
yeah, keep sticking with that.
And with like weeklies will meet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd recommend for anyone who can.
All right. So that's the Berkeley Online School summer classes.
Yeah, it's Berkeley Online. You can take it for college credit.
Okay,
nice.
that's good.
Get a little pluses
Yeah.
there, but yeah, no, it's if you're having trouble, like if you think you can having trouble doing it, like taking a class is like fine. Like a lot of people are self-taught, and that's dope. Like I personally like could never like.
Yeah, everyone's
like,
different.
I don't think if I just sat down with Ableton and like my MIDI controller, it would maybe eventually, but it would take a hell of a lot longer.
Yeah.
Than if I like just have someone.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, though. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, it was a good conversation. And so this was Nathan Hazen, and I think this is episode 4 of The Little Room. And I'll talk to you all later.